going to tell you a very quick and scary story, and I just want you to leave down in the comment section whether this story sounds believable or not. If you heard this, would you just take it at face value? My husband and I had an average relationship. We got married soon after meeting, and just like all other relationships, we had good times and some bad times. But one day I realized that the worst day was yet to come. My husband, the man of my dream, and I have been estranged for some time now. But we've come to a somewhat agreeable co-parenting. We've come to a civil agreement, but that is until my husband came to my house one day and, as if possessed by a demon, walks to the kitchen, grabs a knife, and points it at me as he forced me into the basement of the house. And tying me up, he grabs a container filled with a fluid that I soon realized was gasoline. He pours it all over me and then proceeds to light a match. In my effort for self-preservation, I accidentally kicked him in the legs, and that's when I watched him, as if moving in slow motion, go up in flames. Adrenaline kicks in, and I somehow managed to free myself from the ropes, and I tried to snuff out the fire. In this moment, all I can think of was, how did we get here? How is the man of my dream standing in front of me, screaming in agony as he burned? And more importantly, why did we get to the point where he was so ready and willing to end my life? Well, we didn't. Because this story is a bold-faced lie, a lie fabricated by a monster of a man who tried to turn his victim into the aggressor. This case has violence, betrayal, courtroom drama, and one of the most unbelievable survivor stories you'll ever probably hear. Hi Digestives, welcome to Crimes Digested. This is a place where we try to digest senseless crimes and violences. If you're new here, welcome. I want to take a quick second and say thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join me. On Crimes Digested, we attempt, big emphasis on attempt, to delve into some perplexing true crime stories happening all around us every single day. Some are sad, some unbelievable, okay? Some even unexpectedly funny in the most tragic ways. But most of all, these stories are a constant reminder of the cruelty and dark nature of humanity. Today's story will have you befuddled at the messiness of it all, okay? So join me, buckle up as we explore this morbid and downright bizarre of a story that will make the faint of heart just swear off relationships entirely, okay? Relationship as we know it, because if the possibility that the person you chose to spend the rest of your life with, the person who even swore to love, honor, protect you, could turn so cruel, then it's really not worth it. Very, very, very quick disclaimer, and then we'll jump right into today's story. I know I'm taking forever long with it, but everything in this video is alleged, sometimes personal opinions. Most of the information on this video is what I could find online, so please do form your own opinion. And if you have any additional information that's missing from this video, or if you notice something is not correct, please leave the information down in the comments so that we can all learn from one another. As always, let's try to be respectful to one another in the comment section, so that we can just foster this safe environment and space for every single person to share their thoughts, opinions, and whatever else they want to share. With that said, let's get into it. Picture this. A young woman, badly burned, barely clinging to life, is found outside her home. The person responsible? Her husband, a former New York City cop. But here's where it gets even more puzzling. He claims he was the real victim, that his wife had a secret life as an escort, and this was all just a crime of passion. He alleges that he had to defend himself to protect him, like, that's what self-defense is. So. Audrey Mabrey was originally born and raised in Texas. For as long as she could remember, she had just always wanted to have this happy all-American family life. I'm talking about the husband, the children, a couple of pets, and a white picket fence, okay? I feel like you don't really hear people saying that these days. Like, you don't really see too many people saying that's their dream. And I wonder why. Leave in a comment if you know. I mean, is it because of cost of living? Because it is expensive. Or do you think people just don't want to follow that biological urge? I want to know your thoughts down in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are, because I think it's intriguing. Aubrey was very beautiful. People describe her as being bubbly and just full of life. The kind of person people naturally gravitated towards. And as fortune or woe would have it, I don't know, you decide, but as luck would have it, by the age of 20 years old, she meets the man she thought was the dream man, okay? The man of her dream, Christopher Hanney. Christopher Hanney is a former NYPD detective, a man 17 years older than Audrey. Christopher was described as being very charming, okay? Very, very charming, intelligent, and he seemed like the kind of guy who had it all together. He seemed like he knows what he wants, and Audrey really liked that about him. She would later go on record saying that his intelligence and career path had a very, very big impact on her decision to date him. She found him endearing and probably felt how most normal people would feel to be in a relationship with someone who works as a public defender. Like, I feel like there's this sense of security that comes with knowing that this person's job is to protect others, you know? And sometimes we tend to forget that those people are also human and there are bad people everywhere. We like to just believe they're good, you know? Like, an evil person will be an evil person no matter where you go or what or who they're with. But on paper, he sounded like the perfect partner and lover. And the age difference made him seem like, I don't know, I think she thought he was someone who was ready to settle down. At least in my personal opinion, that's what I think. And Christopher seems to enjoy having a beautiful woman on his arm. She was like a trophy wife, his own little arm candy. And I hate to be that person. I really do. But I think he didn't see her as more than that. He didn't see her as a human. Now, when she reflects on her time with him, she could sense his low self-esteem and how small he would feel being with her. But I don't think she put too much weight to that. You see, although he enjoyed the status that came with having this beautiful woman on his arm, he was also worried that she was too beautiful. Problem. And if he finds her this attractive, that means that there are other men that will find her attractive and alluring as well. He did not like that. But hindsight is 2020. At the time, it didn't seem to her that his insecurities would end up being the downfall of their marriage and possibly her life. At first, Audrey and Chris seemed like the perfect couple. They were blessed by the heavens, okay? An undeniable match. Whoop, my necklace fell. I'm just gonna call him Chris from this point on, because his name is a mouthful and I don't like him that much to keep struggling. So yeah, respectfully, of course. And also that's what most people call him. So yeah. Anyways, half a year into their relationship, the couple, the two of them, came to a decision, and they decided that if they wanted to get to the next stage in the relationship, she would have to move to the concrete jungles of New York City. Okay, he's like, come stay with me. Being led by her love for him, she packed up her things and moved cross country to be with Chris. Audrey never questioned her position in his life. Like, he knew exactly what he wanted. That's what she loved about him. A year and a half into their relationship, Chris pops the big question. Audrey, will you marry me? The saying that men can tell very quickly if they want to be with a woman or not, that was the case for Chris, okay? Although in her situation, I would have been better off, or she would have been better off had he taken his time. And this is not me trying to throw shade or anything like that. I think that if you have the unfortunate fate of meeting someone and loving someone this vile, like this much of a master manipulator who wears a mask so effortlessly, time is your only friend. Time is the only thing that can save you. Many people can hide a lot of things, but with time, it starts cracking. Their lies start to be as clear as day. Frankly speaking, I think that's why most abusers like to move things very fast. They love to love bomb you until your walls fall down. They build you up just for the thrill of pushing you back down and breaking you down. But of course, Audrey said yes. She was beyond excited to spend her life with him. She loved him. So soon after the engagement, she gets pregnant with their first child. The time that should be filled with excitement, love, happiness, and hope for the future of their family became a moment filled with secrets that would leave her wondering, what else does she not know about her fiance? Just a few weeks after the birth of her son, 3 weeks specifically, Audrey finds out that Chris was already married. He was committing bigotry, okay? Bigotry is actually illegal. Bigotry in the US is a crime that can lead to jail time or a fine, depending on the situation and I think states. I know that a lot of cultures practice the act of taking multiple wives. I come from such culture, but I'm not sure if it's only one legal certificate for one main wife and the other women are more glorified mistresses, as you know. But the secrets started coming out. All of his lies started to unravel, and boy, oh boy, was he a good liar. Things changed over time, and not for the better. I think Audrey was still under the illusion of the man that she first fell in love with. She knew how it felt when things were good, you know? She felt good, and so that hard time seemed like a trial that she needed to get through, a struggle love she needs to get through to experience that past joy again. So she forgives him, and the two get married. They moved to the Bay Area in Florida and had their second son. Her hope was diminished as the days go by because Chris became more and more controlling. Not better, controlling, jealous, and emotionally very, very abusive. According to Audrey, he had a dark side, a short temper, an obsession with power, and this growing paranoia about what she was doing whenever he's not around. He was concerned that she was cheating on him. He also was gambling all their money away, wasting years of savings, and they were just defaulting on lots of their bills, okay? That is what broke the camel's back, because Audrey put her foot down and she was like, I'm done. She has finally had enough. She sits him down one day and she calmly just looks at him and goes, listen, I want a divorce. And then it all exploded in one of the most gruesome domestic attacks ever recorded. Audrey and Chris started sleeping in two separate bedrooms. They were not together anymore, pretty much separated, you know. For weeks, their relationship was more like that of two roommates rather than a married couple. But then one night, he sneaks into her room and R-words her. At this point, she's had enough. I said, yes, girl, get away from there. She wasn't going to give him more opportunities to disrespect or control her anymore. She packs up and she moved out that very same night. She was like, bye. A few days later, she finds her own place and she started building a new life for herself. You know, she even started going back to school. She was trying to build her own confidence back again. And for a while, neither one of them contacted the other. They didn't talk to each other until one day, Chris reached out to her begging and pleading, asking for her to drop the charges of his assault against her because she reported him. And he made a promise to do whatever she wanted. He was going to be better with helping her. They were going to co-parent the children and he was going to pay child support. I'm sure he probably tried to guilt trip her using the kids too. Most of these abusers, regardless of their gender, they will often use their kids as the bargaining chip to get away with the consequences of their own actions that should be slapping them in the face. But anyways, they say things like, oh, you're really going to let me go? Like get locked up? Or you want the kids to grow up without their father or mother? Think what it would do to the kids if one of their parents goes to jail or has a record. They won't even be able to get a good job. So with that, Audrey drops the charges against him. But it didn't take long before he started breaking all of his promises again. Figures. She would ask him to look after the kids, and this man wouldn't show up. On one of such days, on November 17, 2009, a seemingly normal day in Temple, Florida, Audrey left the kids with their godparents and she goes out for a quick little run, okay, to clear her mind. Okay, a very, very quick sidebar, okay? What do you think goes on in the minds of people who say things like, I love to run, or I go on runs to clear my head? Because no offense, no shade, but one thing for sure about me, running will never be a fun activity for me. I will run if I have to for exercise or getting away from a serial killer or something like that. But just the fun of it, nope, not gonna happen. Not in this house, okay? I think people who do that have a little tiny bit of psychopathic traits in them. Like, it's wild to me, no offense, all right? But running, of all things, Audrey goes out on a run and then she gets back home. There in the middle of her house was a naked and fully shaved Chris holding a butcher knife pointed at her. What do you think your response would be in a situation like this? This is a situation I know none of us can probably ever imagine or relate to, but one in which you had to like either freeze, fight, or flight. What would you do? Personally, knowing the kind of person that I am, I'll probably react the way that Audrey did, which was she froze in place for a brief moment, and Chris took this as an opportunity to lunge at her. Confusion clouds her mind as she slowly starts to realize that, oh my God, what's happening? And she starts booking it for the door. But it was already too late. Her attempt to flee the house became futile as he grabbed her and starts dragging her to the garage. During their little struggle, Audrey ends up getting a cut on her finger. And I think this is when she realizes that this man means harm to her. The father of her children really, really means to her. The first thing she noticed as he drags her and shoves her into her own garage was a blanket strategically laid down on the floor in the middle of the garage, and it just looked odd. He pushes her onto the blanket, hurling insults at her, demanding that she tell him who the father of their son is, getting more and more agitated and just frustrated when she insisted that he was the father. He attempts to essay her once again as she is pleading through the haze of fear and confusion that was just taking over and clouding her mind. She tries to reason with him, reassure him that he was the father of the children, that she has never and she would never step out on him. But nothing was getting through to Chris. That's the moment she realized that the severity of her situation was being escalated. Audrey's now faced with a man who wasn't listening to logic. No, more like a man who didn't want to listen to logic. So she attempted to connect with his emotions, his emotional side. She starts telling him how much she still loved him and she wants to get back together. She wants them to bring their family back together and become a happy family once again. And relief floods through her as he places the butcher knife down, only to be quickly replaced by another wave of terror when he grabs a hammer and approaches her. He gets down to her level and he starts smashing it into her skull. Not once, not twice, but 4 times, 2 times on each side. He then grabs a container of gasoline and pours it all over her. Audrey was tired and just exhausted from everything. Her emotions were weighing her down. She gave into this blanket of slumber that was taking over her consciousness. But you see, this is when I believe Chris underestimated the love of a mother towards her children. He did not expect this because the thought of her children being orphaned and alone in this world, this gave her all the strength that she needed to snap out of this haze of fear, confusion. She dashes to the garage trying to get it open, and Chris throws a match and she goes up in flame. Now, the moment she was able to get out of the garage, she started screaming, flailing. A neighbor sees her rolling around on the ground in an attempt to get rid of the flames. But there was no success. She was on concrete. Audrey was burning from the waist and up. So the neighbor runs up to her, and with her son's jacket, she waves the flames away and she starts just hitting Audrey to get rid of the fire. The police gets called to the scene, but by the time paramedics arrived, 80% of her body was completely covered in burns. Doctors weren't sure she was gonna make it. They didn't think she was gonna pull through, but Audrey, she's a soldier, okay? She refused to die. That woman is one tough cookie for sure. On another side of the hospital is Chris. After a failed self-exit attempt, Christopher Hanning was arrested immediately, but instead of admitting guilt, he flipped the script. His version of events goes something along the lines of this. Audrey had been cheating on him, living a double life as an escort for some time now. She's been lying, and he just wanted to know the truth. She came over to seduce him. But when he confronted her about her double lifestyle, her escort job, she attacked him. he didn't have a choice but to defend himself. And in the process, he unknowingly, accidentally set her on fire. But here's the thing, none of that made sense. First of all, there was zero proof of Audrey being an escort. Second, his story changed multiple times. Whereas the victim he had traumatized stayed consistent the whole entire time. Forensic evidence also showed that he was the one who struck first. And the biggest blow to his whole defense, police searched his house and discovered something interesting. A written list of ways to end someone's life and get away with it. I mean, if this isn't all the proof needed to send this man to the deepest and darkest pit of the most secure and hellish prison in all of Florida state, I don't know what would do it. Audrey survived months of painful surgeries and is now face to face with Chris in court. She goes up on the stands with I love this girl, okay? She had her head held up high as she testified against him. She stood before the jurors and her body scored, but spirit still stronger than ever. Anyone who saw or heard her story had no doubt that she's a survivor of one of the most horrific crimes. On the stand, Audrey says during court, I quote, I remember him standing there watching me burn. I begged him for help and he just stared. The prosecutors then asked her, did he try to put the fire out? No, he watched me suffer. And Chris, he showed zero emotion, no reaction at all the entire time. The only time he showed any reaction or emotion was when he was describing his account of this absurd story. He was just very animated, just going on about his self-defense story. He was a better seller than the most crook dealership salesman, and the jury wasn't buying it. They convicted him of attempted murder and aggravated battery. Just before his sentencing, Audrey gave a victim statement or victim impact statement, and it reads, I ask that the court, Your Honor, not show mercy on his earthly life because he did not show mercy on mine.
I have forgiven Chris for his monstrous actions, and I will continue to encourage others to forgive as well. I ask that the court, Your Honor, not show mercy on his earthly life because he did not show any mercy on mine or my children.
And the judge didn't. I was like, yes. In fact, he had a few choice words for this man too, okay? Judge Battles said, and I quote, Mr. Hanning, there is your victim forever to bear the physical and emotional scars that were inflicted at your hands. It is her will to live, her strength in all of this that the court finds nothing short of amazing. But I'm struck by something else. The barbarity of these crimes, the viciousness, as cruel as this court has ever witnessed. End quote. And with that, the judge orders him to serve life in prison plus an additional 30 years for aggravated battery and another 30 years for arson with no possibility of parole. Chris also had a little thing to say, okay? He had a statement after the sentencing, and it was just basically telling her to forgive him and that he was sorry for the pain he had inflicted on her.
Daily, since that darkened day in November of 2009, I've earnestly prayed for your well-being, and most importantly, for your forgiveness.
But the apology seems disingenuous to me personally. Today, Aubrey is not just a survivor. She's this amazing, advocate for domestic violence. She's going out speaking about abusive relationships. She's even done some TED Talks and like motivational speeches, using her own story to inspire victims to escape while they can before it's too late. She was also featured on multiple crime documentaries, like a lot, and daytime TV shows as well, such as like Dr. Phil. Honestly, one of my favorite quotes from her is, quote, "He tried to destroy me, but I'm still here, and I'll never stop fighting for others." This really goes to show that not every hero wears a cape. This case is a reminder that abuse isn't always visible. It can start with just words, control, isolation, and just escalate to life-threatening violence that just shocks you, you know? Chris was never physical with her, never prior to this moment. So I'm sure that Audrey never expected the quickness or escalation of this abuse, you know? Audrey Mabrey's story isn't just that of a survival story. It's about taking back your power, you know? And I noticed a lot of people blaming her for staying instead of leaving at the first sign of a red flag. But that to me is just victim blaming, okay? It's easier for someone looking in from the outside, having an outside perspective, to remain objective. But when you're the one involved, it's much harder to see those red flags through the emotions. The man wasn't always controlling, and any person who loves their partner would want to reassure them of their loyalty, you know? That's what she tried to do. In this situation, most people aren't going to just drop everything if they love the person and go. And I think that was the case for Audrey. She stayed because she loved him and she wanted to make it work. That was a man that she loved once upon a time, and he vowed to love her too. So if you are someone you know is in a situation similar to this, like this such toxic environment, please get help. There are people who care. There are people out there who will always like help you find a way out. That concludes today's case though, but I want to know, what do you think in the comment? Was justice served? I would love to read your thoughts down below in a comment. And if you love true crime stories with a twist you won't believe or see coming, make sure you like, subscribe, and you hit that little bell so you don't miss what is coming next. That's the end of today's video. I really hope you guys stay safe, stay out of trouble, and look out for each other. Until next time, bye.